First on CNBC, U.S. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm. Secretary Granholm, it's great to have you back on the show. Welcome.
Thanks. Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me on.
So my biggest question on this is how those funds, the $500 million, will be used and allocated. There's obviously such great need here when it comes to updating public school classrooms, making them healthier and cleaner. How do you decide where it goes and how it gets dispersed?
Yeah, that $500 million, as you mentioned, comes from the bipartisan infrastructure law. And the first step is to put out a request for information to get feedback from superintendents around the country about what they would do if they had, what they would prioritize if they had to upgrade their schools. We want to prioritize, of course, schools that haven't already been updated, but particularly because schools right now spend the second biggest part of their expenditures is on of their utility bills. After salaries. So we want to bring that down. And if just replacing the HVAC and lighting can save up to 30% in that utility bill. And of course, that money ends up going into the classroom. So we're really interested in bringing down costs and having the biggest bang for your buck where it can have the biggest impact. And also, we'd like to see superintendents tell us whether they would be interested in renewable energy installations as well.
So is there going to be a private sector component here where you hire companies, for instance, to make electric vehicles, electric school buses, that sort of thing?
The bus component is a different piece of it. That's actually a $5 billion component, which will be administered through the Department of Transportation. But clearly, because kids who travel, particularly rural areas, who travel long distances on buses, those windows are open, they're breathing diesel fumes, et cetera. We want to be able to reduce the cost of transportation, which of course electric buses do over the life of the vehicle, and make the air safer and healthier. The bottom line is the administration wants to actually leverage the private sector. So, for example, the energy savings performance contracts that can be part of a superintendent's plan with a district to bring down those energy costs is a very welcome thing that we would love to see.
Have to ask you about the latest on oil and gas and the war. Obviously, we are seeing more images of the horrible atrocities coming out of Ukraine. What do you think, Secretary Granholm, it's going to take to get the Europeans to sanction Russian oil and gas? Are they waiting for a chemical attack?
Well, it certainly looks like they're having all of these discussions that are heading in that direction. I mean, you know, this attack in Bucha was, I want to say it really flipped a page about the horror of what Putin is up to. And I think that it is causing our European allies to really reconsider what they are doing and where they are getting their fuel from. Of course, we're in a privileged position in the United States because we are not importing now any Russian oil or gas. And so we understand that the first priority is to keep your people warm in the winter and make sure that they have fuel. But the conversations that we're having about diversifying and moving in new directions, about energy efficiency, heat pumps, et cetera, particularly for those countries that are very reliant, like Germany, on natural gas, are very encouraging. But we have to make sure that we are also doing what we can to help our allies. And that's why the United States has been a recent supplier, certainly of liquefied natural gas. So all of those conversations are happening right now.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that. So we're going to supply them 15 BCM, but there are estimates that Russia supplies them with 160. That's obviously a huge gap. How does that get made up? Where does the extra supply come from?
Yeah, I mean, so part of it is this notion of demand reduction through efficiency strategy. Part of it is there are other suppliers, including Norway, for example, Qatar, for example. We are actually exporting every molecule of natural gas that can be liquefied where there's a terminal to liquefy it. So we are really amping up. We just granted 2 additional permits. There are 2 separate facilities that are coming online by the end of next year, which will increase our exports to 3 million BCF per day. So that's significant help. But those strategies are all happening in parallel. And the European Union is really front and center at making sure that particularly efforts with respect to demand reduction through efficiency is at the front of their strategy.